Here's the thing about your movie, why I made a curator's pick of the Hollywood Fringe Festival. Community, heart,
Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to another edition of BlackBook Mondays, where we believe black power is a three-legged stool requiring social justice, economic might, and our political agenda. Not the Democrats, not the Republicans, our political agenda. So, folks, as we are going into the political time frame, we create a group called Independent Black Voters Group. This is a nonpartisan group, i.e. you can be a Democrat, you can be a Republican, you can be an independent, you can be nonpartisan, you can be libertarian. Shout out to my boys that are libertarian, Mr. Steve Brown. You can come in and you can find out about what our issues are and determine, do we have enough similarities to get together and potentially work together to win, to change America? Because if you don't like the direction in America and you're not trying to change it, then shut up and deal with what's going on. Yeah, I said that. It is very important this year that we take the time to come out and support and listen and also financially support the candidates that are willing to talk about and support our agenda. So, without any further ado, I want to invite our guest today, and we'll start off with Mr. Bedwell. How you doing?
Good morning, Brian. How are you?
And tell us who you are and what you're running for.
I'm Tim Bedwell, and I'm running for the office of Sheriff of Clark County.
Okay, great. We had to stop by real quick. Another candidate, he's going to say hi real quick. Mr. Thorns, just say hello.
Hello. How everybody doing out there?
And you're running for?
I'm running for governor of Nevada.
Okay, great. And of course, I got Mr. Crazy D here. How you doing?
That's right, Lord Land Films. Lord Land Films, because a beautiful black image is everything. LordLandFilms.com.
Thank you. And again, this is brought to you by the Black Book, where we believe that economic prosperity will only come when we start to do business with each other first. www.theblackbook.directory, www.theblackbook.directory. So, I'm excited. Before we get to start here with Mr. Bedwell, a couple of housekeeping things. April 8th, Soul Sessions, 5-year anniversary. It will be at Raw Remedies, 203 East Colorado. Come out, man. Spoken word, music. It's a blast. Come out. I'm an old fart, and I love coming out, hanging out with the young folks. Black Film Festival will be the 27th through the 29th. Shout out Miss Michelle. Man, y'all need to go support her for the Black Las Vegas Film Festival. And from on the Independent Black Voters Mixers, mark your dates. May 4th will be First Friday at Raw Remedies. And it will be a mixer and a fundraiser for our candidates, so you can come out and meet them. And it's going to be just like it's going to be spoken word, it's going to be music, it's going to be a chance to mix and mingle and find out what these folks are doing. And then we're going to do it again on June 1st, just before the election, so you can come out again and find out. We need to blow that place up. We need to get hundreds and hundreds of people to come out and listen to these candidates. They may be underdogs, they may not. But you know what? It doesnn't matter. If they're speaking our language, we need to vote for the folks that are going to win. We got to stop believing, oh, he can't win. We got to stop believing that we have to go with the party's choice, and we need to go with the people's choice. So, without any further ado, let's go to Mr. Bedwell. How you doing? And let me tell you something. Mr. Bedwell, it's interesting. We just met about a week ago, but we had some synergy. Our sons went to school together. And my son called me and said, I need to meet this man. He said he's going to be supporting, trying to eliminate some of the ills that are in there, profiling. And that caught my attention. So I invited him to the Independent Black Voters Group the day before. And he showed up and he showed out and he talked about things that got me excited enough to say, do you want to come on BlackBook Mondays and let the community start to know about you? So without any further ado, Mr. Bedwell.
Brian, thank you for that introduction. And like you said, Brett knows our son Jimmy. Michelle's here with me, my wife, and our son Jimmy, and Brett went to school together. So that's how we ended up getting connected. And it was the night before your last Black Independent Voter mixer, which we knew right away we had to. As soon as I talked to you on the phone, I knew we had to be a part of that. And I applaud you tremendously for bringing political power to people who sometimes need to be more collective instead of fractured to get things done the way they want.
Absolutely.
So and as I said, I'm running for sheriff. I have 42 years of public service. I was in the Marine Corps for 20 years. I grew up in the Marine Corps. Really, I joined the Marine Corps and turned 18 in Marine Corps boot camp. But I've been a police officer for 23 years. I've done a lot of public safety over those 42 years, over 4 decades. And I worked the most recently at North Las Vegas Police Department. I retired as a lieutenant from there last year to run for this office. And what I see now is for a need for change at Metro in a number of areas we can talk about. And I want to bring that change by empowering people that are the bright minds that are already in Metro, the brilliant people in Metro, and by reaching the community and finding out what it is that you want from Metro that can be better.
Great. And that's why we wanted to come in here, because like I said, folks, it's not always the name you know. Sometimes it's the ones you don't know that may be the people we need to start considering. So tell us a little bit, we talked, and you gave us some great examples. You talked about your belief. You gave us an example about a person riding a bike. You gave me some examples about transparency. Tell the folks here a little bit about your beliefs as they go forward.
Well, I think policing is really important when it's done under the power of public safety. When police officers go to work every day, they need to go to work with the energy focused towards keeping the public safe. That's what you pay us for. And so when we talk about public safety, one of the really important things is to have consistency. So everything that you do in Nevada that can be cited as a misdemeanor. Other states, those things aren't arrestable offense. But in Nevada, you can be arrested for things like riding a bicycle on a sidewalk, or jaywalking, or walking in a street where sidewalks provided. It's my opinion that you should never enforce those laws in one neighborhood and not enforce them in another. And I see this dissimilarity happen where there's people with money versus people without money.
One group gets held to the letter of the law, the other person basically gets held to the law.
Yeah, and the spirit of the law sometimes is what prevails. So I think when police officers understand that, and the leadership is making it very clear to them that that's what we want. We want communities to be safer. And quite frankly, in a black neighborhood or a white neighborhood, you can have people call and say, we don't want these 19, 20-year-old men walking in the street keeping us from driving through. But if we're gonna go over there and enforce that, because that's usually why we come to a neighborhood, to enforce those kind of things, then we should do it the same no matter what the color of their skin or their economic status. And what happens is too often I think that's misguided, because officers in their mind often think they're doing it that way because they need to be in a neighborhood that's a high crime. They'll use that term a lot. This is a high crime neighborhood, so we want to have a zero tolerance. Well, what that does is it takes young men and adults and puts their life into stress, because there's nothing more important in your life today than if you get arrested. It could change your life completely. You could lose if you live in a crime-free apartment complex, you could lose your home. You could lose your job because you're probably not going to get to work for a day. And that often in things that are just not really, shouldn't be enforced to that extent. So
Common sense.
it's common sense policing, and it's actually working with people. So when we have that contact, I would prefer to have our police officers say to somebody, you know what, we've had complaints in your neighborhood by people who think that you're intimidating them because you don't get out of the street too fast when they're driving through. That's the way to deal with that issue, because quite frankly, I don't think the people who made the call want to see that young man from their neighborhood get arrested. And oftentimes as a supervisor or as a commander in policing, I've been called and said, I didn't think the cops were going to take it this far when they came. So really we need to look at what is the goals of the neighborhood, and the only way we can know that is to get out and talk to people.
Outstanding. Because this is the thing, and I'll put it to you. We talked a little bit too at the Independent Black Voters Mixer, and guys, you need to be at the next one. We talked about the warrior mentality and changing it, because I'll be honest with you, I'm afraid when I get pulled down by the police, it bothers me. My sons, I'm worried, are they going to come home at night? If we drive by and we see somebody pulled over, we're looking to see, is that our sons? So we have to change this whole opinion of us against them. So you talked about killing that warrior mentality. Explain that a little bit when we talked at the last time.
Well, it's a little distressing to me over the last few years, nationwide. Policing has become more thought of as a warrior job. Officers go to go on they go to a briefing before they go on shift, and you have supervisors that are championing this whole warrior mentality. It's us and them, and really, I don't think people get in policing because they want to do battle. I think they get into policing because they want to help people, and so we have to push back against the idea that police officers are warriors going to battle in the neighborhoods.
They are public servants,
right,
there to help the community.
Yes.
And I think we made a big mistake when we went to enforcers to
Right.
public servants. Great. Now I've got a couple of questions that came up on here. I'm gonna ask you, and this is a key one. What are your policies on the use of video and audio devices? Obviously, we've seen many times where, when something happens, that audio and that video malfunctions or is turned off. You look at the policies today of the existing one, you're pretty much given a pass for 2 or 3 or 4 times before anything even happens to you if you turn it on. I.e., it says it's okay to turn it off because all you're going to get is a boo-boo. You're going to get a slap on the wrist. And we've got to have, if you have a zero tolerance on anything, it should be people who turn off their cameras and their audio and something happens.
And let me add before you answer that, being a person who is in film, who uses these products, there will be lawsuits to the products. Different companies who produce video producing products will have lawsuits. So these products seldom, if ever, they never malfunction because it will be a lawsuit. So explain to us about that, Brian's question, but to me, using equipment,
Right.
it never malfunctions.
So here's where I am on this. What I would prefer is that the police officers could leave their cameras on all the time.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we get pushback about that, and the pushback has to do with people's privacy rights. So when we go into a home for a domestic or something like that, it would be my preference if we're in a contact with a citizen, the video should be on.
Absolutely.
And the decision on whether there's a privacy concern and what to do with that video later, or whether it can be released, can be handled by a judge.
Absolutely.
So, because the police officer clearly is going to see what happens. Once he walks in there, he's going to see, or she, they're going to see what's going on. So to have it on videotape protects the police officers and it protects the rights of the people that are there. Now, the privacy concerns, in my opinion, should be settled by the court. In other words, when you're on patrol and you're having a contact with someone, your video camera should be on. Now, as for the issue of malfunctions, if there's technology, just like Crazy D just said a minute ago, technology today is such that if the camera fails, we're going to know that. If it was turned off, we're going to know that. If it fails, you're right. There's a reasonable expectation that we're going to go back to the manufacturer to make good on that. But really what we're talking about is when it's on and when it's off. And my goal would be to convince, as much as I can, to convince the public that the officers should have their cameras on and that we will protect your privacy by not releasing that video unless it's under a court order. Now, again, there's pushback, and I'm going to have attorneys from the ACLU that are going to disagree on this, but the fact of the matter is that the public's right to know what happens in a situation where there's a complaint in particular, or worse yet, if there's a use of force, and particularly if that's a deadly use of force, the only way we can really have true transparency is to have an automatic on. In other words, the camera is on unless you turn it off. And the times that you turn it off should be because you're in a bathroom, you're in a briefing, or something like that.
Great.
But
I'm gonna actually let my friend over here, Mr. Thorns, speak for a second. He dropped by, and folks, he's running for governor. And you were gonna say something real quick.
yes, what I have a problem with it's like, stop resisting. He got a gun. You know, you do all that before they even attack the person. So, you know, it's like they plan it. You know, stop resisting when nobody is resisting. He got a gun, but there's no gun. Like the guy got killed in Sacramento. You know, they say he turned around and faced the officer with a gun, like threatened. So the first thing the guy said, well, the gun, he got a gun. But come to find out, he was shot 20 times. He really shot 8 times, and 7 of them was in the back. So if he had a gun facing you, how did he get shot in the back?
Exactly. So we got to talk to that, but I'm going to give one quick second because I got to go back on, this is on Tim's time.
Yes.
Folks, Thorns is running for governor, and I want to tell you something. I want you to think about this. We need to start supporting the underdogs. If they're going to talk about our agenda, you know, they have a thing called the primary. Guess what? The primary determines who goes on and runs in the general. And sometimes we won't vote for somebody in the primary because we think they can't win. Well, folks, they can't win with that mentality. And sometimes you want to send a message that if you're not going to talk about my votes, you got these votes at risk. So I say that, and Thorn will probably have you on another time.
Yes.
But think about, as we go forward, to change our opinion and stop letting the masses dictate who we vote for. Just as we're going to go back, and we'll go back because this is your dime, Tim. And we're going to talk about this on an economic prospect. One of the things that I said to you, I'm going to let you elaborate. We got a major problem here that while the police are here to protect and to serve, police are here to keep the peace. We're seeing the amount of homelessness double and triple. And here's my concern. I said this off the air, so I'm going to say it to you right now. Gas prices have gone up. They were sitting rock solid at $2.30, $2.40. Now it's at $2.80. So it's gone up 20%. You look at the housing here. There's less than 4,000 houses on there. So that means that the price of housing is going up, and that also means the price of rent's going to go up. You look at food. You look at everything. Insurance. We just went from a minimum of $15,000 to $25,000, plus they've increased the cost. So that's going up 40 and 50% for those who have the least. It's going to drive more people into homelessness, working poor, people who are working every day but can't afford a place to live. Yes. So as a police officer, I know your number one objective is to keep the peace and manage. We also need advocates who can connect the dots to the government that we need affordable housing. We need living wages as a way to combat crime. Would you agree? And give me your thoughts there.
And you also need jobs. You need
Exactly.
jobs badly, especially in areas around where we're at right now in the Northwest. And, you know, I think this is why I really applaud you, and this is why we came out for your mixer, and we'll come out to your events in the future. You are someone who tries to rally people to work towards these end goals. So I think it's my responsibility as a sheriff's candidate, and certainly as the sheriff, to support people who are trying to better the neighborhoods that they're in. And you have a lot of really good ideas. So I applaud that, you know, and I'm really happy Power 88's letting us have this time today to talk about this. But here's one other thing, and you and I talked about this in depth. Regardless of what the economic factors are with regard to the price of gasoline, it's really detrimental to your neighborhoods when young men get arrested for things that are simple, that in most states aren't even a crime.
Absolutely.
Like jaywalking or speeding, and they get tickets for speeding that then turn into warrants.
Yes.
So, you know, it disproportionately affects some neighborhoods because
Black
we go in there,
community.
like I
Yes.
said,
Yes.
yeah, black communities, and like I said, because we go in with a zero tolerance mentality, and that's detrimental because what happens is, and let me tell you two things, and we'll move on, but two things that are really important about that. It affects a person's life immediately, and it affects their life long term.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Because what happens is that then, here's a great example. We want Metro to look more like the neighborhoods, but then we disqualify young men of color because they have a police record. And that police record, if you look at it, is oftentimes just silly things that they shouldn't have been arrested for. So my mindset towards the economy of it is mostly focused on trying to ensure equality in public safety and equality in the enforcement of the law.
Great, great. Now, folks, he mentioned a couple of things, including Power 88. This is a membership drive that's going on through April 6th. This is the People's Station. No place else will we be able to talk about these issues, to bring in a candidate and basically talk to him about issues that are strong within the black community. So take out your money, be it $5, $10, $50, $88. Consider joining the Power 88 group and coming out in and supporting the membership drive. So,
and let me add also, Brian, where else can you find a station where this Wednesday, April 4th, is the Candlelight Vigil 50-year commemoration of the death of Martin Luther King Jr. What other station in the whole valley is doing anything like that? So that's why you should support Power 88 and also come out to the Candlelight Visual April 4th, this Wednesday, at the statue, Kerry and MLK.
Exactly. Now, again, Tim, I appreciate you coming over here because, folks, stop just worrying about whose name you've heard and start listening to what people say and actually look at their history. What have they done for me in that position? I know their name, but do I really know what they've done? Has the amount of arrests for black folks gone down? Has the incarceration really gone down for us?
No.
Have the amount of African Americans who have been hired gone up? Are there more people who look like me? I don't know all these answers, but I'm telling you to look at what's happening now and see if we maybe need more change, and maybe we need a person in here who's going to come and talk about some of the issues we just heard here. Again, this is BlackBook Mondays, brought to you by the Black Book and sponsored by the Independent Black Voters Group, where we believe people, not parties, our vote is not free. So without any further ado, Ted, kind of tell us why we need to vote for you. Take it home and tell us why you should and be the candidate of choice.
I want to bring legitimacy back to the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. I want to bring better communication with the neighborhoods, and I want to bring consistency in policing. Particularly, that's important to everyone here in the black neighborhoods. I want to thank everybody for listening to us today, and I also want to let you know you can look me up on Facebook. I'm Tim Bedwell, and Tim Bedwell on Twitter. My website is bedwellforsheriff.com. If you want to find out more about me, you can go there, and if the answer isn't there, you can ask me, because I answer everybody's questions on social media and on my website. So I really want to thank you again, Brian, for this. We're going to see you at things. I would ask people, come out to the things Brian's talking about. Come out to the mixers, because that's how you get power to get the people in office that you need to make your lives better.
Yeah, and thanks for saying that, Tim. And understand, we created the Independent Black Voters Group to talk about issues that are dear to the black community, because we believe that if you deal with the issues in the black community, the tide will rise for everybody. Not just us, everybody. And if you look at our mixers, everybody is there. Black, white, Hispanic, Republicans, Democrats. Well, we had one Republican. Democrats, well, we had a couple of Democrats. And independent thinking people. Again, I am nonpartisan. A shout out to Rodney Smith, who is running CD4. He's come to all of our functions. Amy for the People, Viola, has been to our functions to help us as we try to develop a agenda. We talked about healthcare and what we need there. We're going to be putting together a poverty plan. You're invited to come to as we put our sessions together in Nehemiah about a strong poverty plan that is really that. A poverty plan not by the politicians but by us. And structured around the point, we have to find affordable housing in this area. It can't just be about a boom without affordable housing, so people can have a living wage, affordable housing, and actually be able to live here. If we don't, folks, let me give you an idea about LA in California. Skid Row is going out of control because people are there and they cannot afford to live in the place they work. And we're headed for the same scenario right here in Vegas. And as I said, we're going to talk in the future about a lot of things. What's good may not, what sounds good may not always be good, but I guarantee you, if we can come up with an affordable housing plan that, I got 3 minutes, that allows people to buy, not rent, but to buy property, and we have businesses where people who actually own the businesses live in the community, then we'll start seeing real change, folks. So,
Let me say one thing about Rodney Smith real quick before we go. Rodney Smith is an early believer in the independent black voters group.
Absolutely.
And what Brian Harris is putting down with the BlackBook Mondays. To see more video on him, all you have to do is log on to Lordland Films on YouTube, and also filmmaker Client A page, and you'll see the various videos that we have on Rodney Smith, and listen to his message. And also we have a podcast called Nothing But the Facts, and his interview is one of the best interviews. He takes the questions head on. He doesn't skirt anything. Listen to what Rodney Smith is saying. That's what I'll say.
And Thorn, I say real quick, hopefully we'll get you on another show. But what were you gonna say?
Yes, I with all due respect to Rodney Smith, but I believe the same thing. I've been in this community 57 years. It's time for a change, and I'm the man to make that change. Henry Hen Thorns, the dog catcher, running for governor. I done already did the work. Now it's time to put me in office. Vote for Henry Thorns for governor.
Thank you. And again, Ted, one more time, we thank you for going. We got a couple minutes left. I want to tell you folks, if you like what you're hearing, come out to the Independent Black Voters Mixers, ask the right questions. We deserve agenda. I am not a minority. I am a black man. I ask people to respect the fact that as everyone else can have an agenda, so can we. And understand, our agenda is good for America.
And it's important for that agenda that you vote in the primary.
Absolutely.
You can have power by going and voting in the primary. I'm Tim Bedwell. You can vote for me for sheriff in the primary. We can win it in the primary.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you don't vote, then you get what you get. If you don't come out and support the candidates, then you get what you get. If you're happy and you know it, then you happy and you know it.
Do not clap your hands. Do not clap your hands, because I know you're not happy.
Exactly. So we thank you again, Power 88, KCEP. Without you here, we would not have a voice on the airways. So support Power 88, and thank you for another Black Book Monday as we try to educate the community about the need to save ourselves through black economics, to create power by basically understanding the three facets: social justice, economic might, and our political agenda. Thank you again, Tim. And we look to have you out here for some other ones. And I'm going to introduce you to some of the pastors and some of the other folks here. And your commitment is you're going to be around so we can get to know you, correct?
That's right, Brian.
All right. Thank you very much. My man, Mr. Brian Timms, thank you again for your help as usual. All right.
Well, good to see you.
Good talking to you.
Yes,
Good show. Good show.
We definitely need a change.
Brian Harris.
And the key is